President Saddam Hussein had the chance to end the bloodshed in the Gulf this afternoon, but he decided not to take it. To have ended the war, he would have had to accept all the UN resolutions and withdraw from Iraq unconditionally, a political price he was not prepared to pay.
There's no road but this road which we have chosen. Our political efforts which materialized in Tariq Aziz's trip to Moscow has not been able to neutralize the aggression being unleashed against us.
He attacked President Bush and King Fahd of Saudi Arabia, accusing them of wanting more and more from him. Earlier he said they wanted Iraq just to say it will withdraw. Now they're talking of stripping Iraq of its power. But our people and our armed forces are determined to continue this struggle, he said.
We will continue the struggle, confident that we will eventually win victory. The mother of battles is our great battle of victory and martyrdom.
He played upon the bitterness which the Iraqi people feel at the Allied bombing, suggesting civilians were the main Allied target. The Allies have avoided ground fighting and have concentrated on killing civilians, he said. They don't want to confront our ground forces. A lot of people still don't know the capability of our army, he said.
They want us to surrender. Well, of course, they will be disappointed.
So Saddam Hussein has apparently decided withdrawal from Kuwait on the UN's terms would be political suicide. Instead, it's almost certain now that tens of thousands more of his own soldiers will die as a result of his attempt to hold on to political power.
Subject to Iraqi censorship.
Saddam Hussein's ruling Revolutionary Command Council last night agreed that Foreign Minister Tariq Aziz should return to Moscow immediately. According to unofficial Iraqi interpretation of President Saddam's speech today, Tariq Aziz is thought to be carrying a favorable response to the Soviet initiative, but a response that does nothing to lessen the chances of an Allied ground offensive to liberate Kuwait. The Iraqi president's 35-minute address to the nation, monitored by the outside world, warned his people that if the Allies reject Moscow's proposals, the mother of battles would automatically follow. His broadcast spoke of Iraq's stand against a large number of aggressive forces, singling out Egypt and Saudi Arabia on the Arab side. Iraq said Saddam Hussein had no other choice but to follow the path of faith and pride. He claimed his army was determined to fight on and congratulated the steadfastness of his people. Within the last hour, Baghdad has come under renewed air bombardment after a day of relative calm. From Saddam Hussein's speech, it sounds like he has already made the judgment that the American-led alliance will reject the Soviet initiative and that the war will escalate soon. He criticized President George Bush for dismissing last Friday's Iraqi proposals to end the war, in which Baghdad offered to consider a Kuwaiti withdrawal in conjunction with a list of conditions. America had not fully considered that plan, said the Iraqi leader, which could have led to a real and comprehensive peace to all problems of the region. Instead, the Iraqi president warned the mother of battles will follow, and that Iraq will be led into victory and martyrdom.
President Bush listened to the Baghdad broadcast from the White House. Within an hour, his spokesman said it repeated the same invective and disregard for the UN mandate. It was disappointing. And he added, the liberation of Kuwait continues.
It could well be martyrdom.
Senators learned of the broadcast in Congress and asked the Defense Secretary for his reaction.
Obviously, the conflict can end tomorrow if he will get out of Kuwait and withdraw his forces immediately from Kuwait. So far, we haven't seen any indication on his part that he's prepared to do that.
Mr. Cheney said, according to the military plan, it made sense to move from an air to a ground war. A senior Pentagon official said Saddam's broadcast is a suicide note for the Iraqi army. 4 out of 5 Americans support a ground war now.
Go in and bomb the hell out of them. Take Saddam Hussein out.
If we don't do something about him now, 3 or 4 years from now, we'll have a lot worse problem.
The decision on a ground war rests with the president. His resolve appears firm.
For our purpose, you see, is clear, and our mission is just. And we are going to prevail.
Mr. Bush is still waiting to hear the reply the Iraqis give in Moscow, but the chances of avoiding a ground war are now receding fast.
In Britain, Prime Minister John Major says there's now not even a glimmer of hope for
emerged from number 10 after having studied the text of President Saddam's broadcast. Mr. Major's message to the nation was a grave one.
Can I just say to you, we've now had the opportunity to look very carefully at what Saddam Hussein seems to have said in his speech. It clearly is very disappointing. There is no glimmer of hope, no glimmer of compromise, no suggestion in the slightest way that he realizes what he's done and the extent of the damage that he's caused by his illegal actions over recent months. Nothing in his speech, I fear, gives any hope of compromise or any suggestion that he is about to obey the Security Council resolutions. I think this is an immense opportunity that has been lost. It has been lost, and now it seems it has gone. There is no doubt whatsoever that Iraq is going to lose this conflict and that they will be dispatched from Kuwait and that Kuwait will return back to its legal ownership. I had hoped that he might have announced, for he knows what is necessary, that he was going to adopt the Security Council resolutions. Clearly he has not done so. There has been no suggestion of that at all, and I regret that very much.
So did that mean the land war was inevitable?
We propose to ensure that Kuwait is liberated. Unless Saddam Hussein does adopt the Security Council resolutions in full, then there will be a land conflict.
But was Mr. Major easy in his own mind about ordering that land conflict?
We have done everything we could to prevent this. What we must seek to do is to restore Kuwait to its rightful ownership and ensure that there is a durable peace and security in the Middle East. That is in everyone's interest, both in the short and the long term. And upon that reason, I'm content in my own mind that it is right.
Although there hasn't been a formal offensive, the ground battle is now effectively underway.
This operation was on a scale that dwarfed Britain's other artillery action of recent days. Every single gun the British have here, 72 in all, rolled towards the border, preparing to fire across this sandbank at Iraqi positions. Behind the guns, the rocket launchers were also in action. "144 rockets were fired by the British, streaking towards Iraqi artillery and mortar positions. The firepower we witnessed this afternoon was 4 times that of the guns used at the Battle of El Alamein. The howitzers joined in, firing over a 2-hour period, targeting Iraqi infantry dug in 12 miles away. Among the gunners was 26th Regiment, which boasts of firing the opening shots at Waterloo. Today they were firing a new shell that explodes high above the ground. There was no disguising that in effect the ground war had already begun.
The ground war is certainly underway. The artillery of all the allies is engaging the Iraqis on the ground.
And for the men on the ground, this was frenetic work, digging trenches beside their vehicles as protection in case of counter-bombardment. The British alone fired 1,300 shells, and the Royal Artillery are just a small part of a huge Allied effort to prepare for a ground offensive. What went through your mind as you were firing for an action for the first time?
Bit of excitement.
That this was for real could not be mistaken. The adrenaline and the training was taking over. As well as the stress, there was the exhilaration. As they left their positions without running into any return fire and without taking any casualties.